can't beat around the bush, as I say a lot. We have an absolute legend on the line. We got to bring him here, Pat. So we all know, we mentioned earlier, this guy, absolute orchestrating, just a juggernaut there in Buffalo. GM for the Buffalo Bills. Trades for Nyheim Hines earlier this week. The guy's always moving, always communicating. Please welcome Brandon Beane.
Yeah, Brandon!
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, Brandon, we really appreciate you joining us. Obviously, I mean, right after the trade deadline, everything happens. You had a beautiful clip that's out there on the internet. You're kind of explaining the trade process, and when their reports we were sniffing on this guy, and someone said you guys got rebuffed, and it was enlightening to hear you explain that whole situation and communicate. Should more GMs be doing this and being as transparent as you are? Because how you explained it made a lot of sense on how all these rumors and things get thrown out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just try and educate without giving away strategy, and that's the best thing we can do, because I think, a lot of people are guessing and wondering how certain processes are working, whether it's how you build your draft board or how you scout college players, or in this case, the rumor mill out there leading up to the deadline. There's all sorts of, insiders, whether it's for ESPN or NFL Network or whoever, that are trying to get scoops, and some of their sources are good, some are not good, and it's hard to say people are lying, but definitely we know that the truth gets stretched, and teams put it out there too for leverage, trying to get more people in. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get drug into ones that really you were never involved in. That team, I've had it where people have said the Bills were interested, and that team called us, and we said, we'll get back to you if we're ever interested. We never call them back, and I'm reading, you almost want to call them and say, let me know if we get them or not.
Hey, agents also trying to spin, right? If they're trying to get a player out of somewhere, they're going to give some information on who's potentially poking around. So it's, for us, we have to kind of wade the bullshit. And we appreciate whenever somebody who's as good at their job as you are and in the position that you're in, go ahead and lays it out so we can be educated. And I think you even said that a couple of times, like, just for everybody to know, here's the process. We learned a lot. I mean, I played 8 years. AJ, how long did you play in the NFL?
11.
That's like 19 years of NFL stoogery that we've had, and I'm a pretty observant person. I had no idea that there's people that are looking into things to present to you. It makes sense once you broke it down, so we appreciate that. What did you see in Nyheim Hines that made you pull the trigger? You said you had talked a little bit with Carolina about Christian McCaffrey. That conversation just didn't come to fruition. What was it about Nyheim Hines that you thought like would fit your offense, and why did you go get him? And fuck you for that.
I respectfully appreciate the fuck you there, but in all seriousness, he's a guy that I've had my eye on before. We've checked into him, just like you check into guys at different times. A couple of summers ago, I believe it was during the COVID summer, I really didn't feel like we had that piece in the backfield, for us to, for Josh as an outlet player, and so we looked, and at the time the Colts were not interested. We checked back another time, but things change at various times in this league for different reasons. And so, again, this was one of those we checked into at the last minute before the deadline, and a lot of respect for Chris Ballard and how he does things, and the timing was better for them, for us, and I think Zach Moss over there. Zach's been here. We think he's still a good player, but he was stuck in a tough spot behind Devin Singletary, not getting the touches, and so hopefully he'll go to Indy, and that'll work out for him.
Now, I hope. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Pat, he's still a bit upset about that one. But Brandon, we have Von Miller on every Thursday. He's come on for the last I don't know how many weeks, and just I told Pat yesterday, I think this dude should be like a spokesman for the NFL. Like how he speaks about the game of football, how much love he has for it, and his passion for his teammates. It's awesome to see, and how he communicates. And he obviously was very, very appreciative of you and gave you a bunch of compliments on how you communicate and run your business. But what has Von meant for the team? Like, what has he done for that team? It's really fun to watch him, but also we don't get to see everything happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, Von's amazing. I mean, he's a heck of a talent on the field. We all know that. But the leadership, we heard about, what he did to LA and when he got there last season at the trade deadline, and kind of unlocking Aaron Donald and some of that crew. Obviously, that was a very talented team to add him, but bringing a championship mentality. Sometimes you got really good players, but there are certain things, the details of the game, your everyday process. And so we got a lot of young D linemen on this team, and so adding him into that mix first off, and then he gets voted captain here, which he's probably one of the I don't think we've ever had a player in the first year with the Bills since Sean and I have been here that got voted by his teammates year one as a captain. And I think that meant a lot to Vaughn. Just of, wow, these guys respect me already. I've barely been here. And ever since he got voted, I just feel like he's opened up even more to our team, to our city. And man, he knows the game. I can't tell you how much he knows. Obviously, he knows pass rushers, but he studies the game. He's not a guy that's just checks out of football when he walks out of these doors. He's talking about games in college. He's watching pro. I mean, and he wants to understand behind the scenes. I know he's mentioned about being a GM. If he truly wants to do it, which I think that's where his heart is, I think he'll crush it.
What'd you do? You paid him like $195 million or something over 2 years. You remember when that contract was dropped out of nowhere? It was like the Buffalo Bills had paid Von Miller $750 million. And everybody's like, he's washed. Why would you do this? He's made an immediate impact. With that being said, you are paying him. You're paying Diggs. You're paying Josh Allen. You're paying, I assume you're paying more people that we don't just hear about or talk about everything. I think Poyer is going to be due for another contract here soon. How do you juggle being so aggressive? And then and I'm just going to speak frank, there's teams that aren't. And I get so confused about it. I get on this microphone, the one that AJ's sitting on every single day. And I'm like, why aren't you going all in? And they're like, well, the salary cap. People tell me the salary cap. And then we learn about this cash over cap deal. That if you have an ownership group that has money that they can put in escrow to guarantee, you can really divvy that up over the years. How are you projecting what the salary cap is? And how have you been able to be so aggressive? And why doesn't everybody do it, you think? Honestly, why doesn't everybody do it?
Well, I think it starts with your ownership. What does your ownership want? Do they just want to make money? Some of them say they want to win, but are they giving you an open checkbook to make it work? And our ownership here with the Pagulas, they've given Sean and I every single resource, whether it's, and I'm not even talking about just player costs. I'm talking about doing things to our facilities, upgrades to our fields, whatever we need. They've pretty much helped us out. Obviously, they're working behind the scenes to get us a new stadium here, in the coming years. Hopefully, I last long enough to watch it be built. But
I think you're okay. All right, you keep stealing Nyheim Hines.
This business can change fast, you know that. But in all seriousness, I don't think every team is saying, "Hey, I want to go all in." Some of them are. I want to be competitive. I want to compete for the division. But there's a difference between competing for your division and competing for a championship. And I can't say that every team owner is definitely doing that. I'm not saying they don't want to win, but you got to truly be all in, open the checkbook, and then allow us to work with the cap and be able to. This year, we are going to spend cash over cap. It will come back down at some point, but right now we do need some extra funds.
Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Brandon, you mentioned kind of teams being more competitive and everything like that, and the AFC East has kind of blossomed into this, one of the top divisions in the NFL now. Do you ever see or monitor what the other teams in the division are doing? Obviously, Miami goes and gets Bradley Chubb. Do you try and counter that? Do you try and call a different, team in the NFC maybe, like, hey, Bradley Chubb's a pretty good player, maybe go after him so Miami doesn't get him? Or is it just kind of, doing your own process and thinking about just worrying about your team?
Yeah, that's a good question, Connor. I think, first off, every year, every offseason, we look at our division, where we look at obviously where we're at, but we look at those three teams because the easiest path to get in the playoffs is to win your division, and you get at least one home playoff game. So we definitely want to know what the Jets, the Patriots, and the Dolphins are doing, see how we match up against them. And, yes, we know we got to beat them there, but we also want to look at the other, superpowers in our conference. Obviously, the last 2 years, Kansas City's a team that's ended our season, in the playoffs. So we also want to measure up to teams like them, the Titans, who have consistently, won that division. In the West, the Chargers, seem like an up-and-coming team. So you're also looking outside your division, but the biggest focus each offseason for sure is how do you stack up in the AFC East?
How nice is it right now is it nice, I should say, to have the trade deadline have come and gone? And obviously you guys – you're active. You get Nyheim Hines here at the last minute. It feels like now can you almost not relax, but can you move on to other things that maybe you haven't gotten to spend as much time on?
Yeah. What does the day-to-day look like right now? That was going to be my question. What does the day-to-day look like right now post trade deadline to the end of the season?
Yeah, Pat, AJ, right now it's even more focused back onto the college. I mean, after you kind of pick your 53 man in September, you start evaluating practice squad rosters, stacking your board, making sure if you need to get somebody, steal a practice squad player off another team, you kind of have your rankings by position, do some workouts, etc. And then we start getting into the college. But then the last couple of weeks, as the trade deadline approaches, you start looking at your team. Where do you think you have needs? Where are you weak in case, or vulnerable in case injury strikes? And we thought safety and running back were two of the things we wanted to address if the option was available. We grabbed Dean Marlowe the other day as well. But now it's back to, in my world, a lot of focus on the college game. And I'm going to go scout tomorrow, one of the bigger games, and just get a chance to see some of these guys move around live.
You coming here?
Athens? You going to Athens, Georgia?
You coming here?
I am.
Oh.
Yes, I'll be there tomorrow. Yeah.
You guys should link up.
Hey, it's beautiful down here. The weather's perfect. There's a little cookout in the air right now. I'm down here right now. Ugga's house was just right behind me. It's fucking real nice, Coach. Hey, how many of you guys will be? Go ahead.
Well, if you had invited me, I would have come on down today, but I'm on a plane in the morning, so I'll be down there tomorrow for sure. Hopefully I can track you down.
I'm a bad guy. How many do you GMs talk to each other about like going to this? Like, will there be, how many GMs do you think will be at this game tomorrow if you had to just predict?
I'll bet you there's at least 4 or 5 for sure. I would say probably, half go out and scout college guys, probably half don't. It may be, some of it depends on where your schedule is, where you're playing. If you're playing out on the West Coast, it's probably going to be hard to do that. So I'd say 4 or 5.
Do you always like
use that on
going?
game day tomorrow? I'm gonna sound so smart. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna sound so smart.
Yeah.
I've been told 4 or 5 GMs are gonna be in the house. I mean, it's a big game. I'm gonna sound so fucking smart. I appreciate you. Sorry about that, AJ.
At least, yeah, Brandon, last thing for me, is that something you always feel like you want to do as a GM? Like, hey, I need to go see these guys, these players with my eyes. I can't, you trust all your people when you trust your film, but you need to see them up close and personal.
Yeah, I think it's important, AJ, to see them and running around. It gives you a chance to body type them, watch them interact with their teammates,
There it is.
watch them in game situations.
Yeah.
When you're just flipping tape, sometimes you lose track of down and distance, game situations, how they handle the big moments. And you can definitely, the film starts running together. When you're there at games, you see how guys, deal with certain things. Are the coaches constantly yelling at them? Are they constantly being pulled out of the game? What's their leadership on this? Are they vocal? Are they not saying anything? And then it gives you also a chance to ask, if a coach, in this instance at Georgia or Tennessee or a staff member, gives me a chance to ask them their thoughts on the player, not just as a player, but what are they like? What's their habits like? Will they fit the culture that we have here in Buffalo?
Hey, sorry, last thing from Steelers superfan, Tone Diggs, what do you got?
Well, yeah, you brought it up. So, like, when you go down there tomorrow, Jalen Carter's projected top 5, top 10 pick, D lineman for Georgia. Since you're never going to be picking there, do you not look at him, or do you do that just in case one day you're going to end up trading for him, like you did for Vaughn or picked up Vaughn in free agency? Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you still scout those guys?
Yeah, stick with one eye and still take a look at them. No, you definitely scout them all because things happen. I tell you, you see it. Look at a player like Jeffrey Simmons, with the Titans, who was that year rated very highly. Unfortunately, tore his ACL training, and he dropped in that draft. I think it was 2019 draft, and Tennessee got him, later on. So you still evaluate him because things can happen between now and then, and you want to know everything you can about him.
Well, Brandon, we really appreciate your time, man. Thank you, especially right after trade deadline, everything going on. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Brandon Beane.
Yeah, Brandon!
Thanks, appreciate y'all.
Safe
Appreciate
travels.
it. Yeah, have fun in Athens.
Let's have a beer.
Sounds good. I'll track you down.
There you go.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Go.
4 to 5. You should be beer bonging with all those 4 to 5 GMs down there. Bring one down. Do you have one? We could probably make one. Send it.
I don't travel with a beer bong. Maybe back in the day, though.
There's got to be a few. There'll be a few in
the
the crowd, I'm guessing, tomorrow or today.
I think Georgia's like tailgate scene is like super sophisticated. Like I think it's like
Sport coat.
high class, right?
yeah, I think it's like really. I think everything's like real nice,
Catered and
Everything's
shit.
Like white
I think so.
tablecloths. They probably have chandeliers in the tents. I've seen places like
yeah.
that.